Trott. He said that it appears that a bomb was detonated at the heliport. The heliport is a helicopter landing area right next to the Pentagon, just adjacent to the E-ring. The offices nearest the heliport area are U.S. Army, Reserve officers, and the Army Reserve offices are located there. But as you can see, it appears to be a pretty significant blast. To give you some perspective, we are almost on the opposite side of the building, the world's largest office building. And as I reported to you, we could feel the building shake and the windows rattle. And as I was in the hallway just a few moments ago, I could smell an acrid kind of smoke, the kind of almost what you'd smell when a fluorescent light goes bad, that kind of ballast smell. And authorities are clearing the building. I don't know if you can hear the sirens outside right now, but it appears that in what I think people here in the building are already describing as a highly sophisticated, coordinated attack, not only against the World Trade Center, but against the Pentagon and U.S. military right here in Washington.
Tell me again, I worked at the Pentagon as well, and it is a huge building. I mean, it's miles and miles of offices. At what location did this seem to have detonated? It's at
the heliport. The heliport, which is as you sit in the Pentagon, you have the Potomac River and Washington, D.C. on one side, and the heliport is located almost exactly on the opposite side of the building, along one of the highways. Easily accessible, even though that they've increased security here significantly at the Pentagon within the past couple of years.
Mick, that area... I want to mention to you, Mick, that we are hearing, again, unconfirmed reports that this was the result of a plane crashing in the area as well.
I have no idea, Katie. All I know is that people who were in the building who came running from that part of the building thought it was a bomb of some kind.
This is in Sarasota, Florida. President George W. Bush about to board Air Force One, heading back very quickly to Washington, canceling all of his events there, and he will be heading over to the Situation Room with top officials, including National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice. There you can see people hurrying back up into Air Force One.
And we are reading on the Associated Press wires that the West Wing of the White House has now been evacuated. The West Wing of the White House. Let's go back and listen to the continuing description at the Pentagon by Jim Miklaszewski.
Evacuated from the Pentagon?
Well, nobody's given us the official word yet, but I think that's probably a safe bet. Thank goodness that was a helicopter that just flew by. I'm just a little nervous right now when you hear aircraft go past, but they have, in fact, evacuated that portion of the building. Usually they have sirens that go off in the building alerting you to the fact that it's time to get out. I haven't heard those yet, but just judging by the pictures, it's clear that that part of the building that is not damaged, at least, has been evacuated. Like I said, in the hallway, it was pandemonium. People were rushing from their offices, rushing outside.
And you're in your office at the Pentagon right now, Mick, reporting to us?
I am in the office, but I'm at the opposite side of where this crash occurred.
All right, why don't you see if you can gather some more information. Please, again, be careful, Mick, and we're going to go to Matt, who's going to be talking with Jamie Gangel.
All right, yeah, Katie, thank you very much. I'm joined by...
The White House and the Capitol in Washington, D.C. are now being evacuated. We have confirmation that in light of what looks to be a series of attacks against public facilities in the United States, including U.S. government facilities, 2 plane crashes into the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, and then just a short time ago, an Associated Press reporter saw the tail end of a large airliner plunge into the Pentagon. Smoke is billowing out of the Pentagon, and now the West Wing of the White House, and the Capitol are being evacuated.
We are also getting word that one of the 2 planes that crashed into the World Trade Center was hijacked after takeoff from Boston. This according to a U.S. official, and he cited as evidence of that a transmission from the hijacked plane, one of the two planes that crashed into the World Trade Center shortly before rush hour, or during rush hour this morning, shortly before 9 o'clock on the southern tip of Manhattan, the World Trade Center, which, as you see there on the right-hand side of your screen, still continues to burn, thick black smoke billowing up above. We saw, in fact, live on television, the second plane crash into the World Trade Center second tower.
We have former Governor Mario Cuomo from New York on the phone. If you could hold on for 1 second, Governor, we are just getting word from the FAA that all planes across the United States have been grounded. The Federal Aviation Administration is grounding all planes across the United States in the wake of terrorist attacks, apparent terrorist attacks, and continuing terrorist threats. In addition, the White House and the Capitol in Washington, D.C. have been evacuated. And you can see the picture now, the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers in Lower Manhattan, both apparently the subject of terrorist attacks. Separate planes flying in to those towers less than an hour ago, and a third plane flying into the Pentagon just minutes ago. That you can also see to the left of your screen, smoke billowing. Again, former Governor Mario Cuomo of New York is on the phone with us. Governor, thank you so much for being with us. Let me just get your reaction at this point.
Same as every other American, it's a terrible act of barbaric terrorism. It's frightening in many ways, recalling the previous attack on the World Trade Center. One of the immediate problem, obviously, is to put out the fire, literally, try to deter any other acts of terrorism that are planned for about this time. Do what is necessary immediately, but longer range. The difficulty here is probably this is more difficult to deal with, this kind of terrorism, than any act of any nation which might be alien to you and drop a bomb on you, because you can fight a nation. This won't be national. This will be individuals. Maybe they'll never even be identified as associated with any nation, and therefore it's harder to deal with. Also, I would hope that at one point, at least we discover from the terrorists what their grievance is, because you can't have enough FBIs and enough police and enough National Guards to defend yourself against these attacks. It's impossible. What you have to do is deter the hate, deter the provocation, find out what the cause is, and attempt to deal with that. But unless the terrorists identify at least the cause they're seeking to serve, this will be tremendously difficult, if not impossible, to deal with. Unless we know why they're doing it, we will not be able to prevent it.
We are just hearing, Governor, that the Pentagon, in addition, has been evacuated, so we add that to the list of evacuations, the White House and the Capitol building.
See, the dimensions are already enormous, and they may grow worse, but the problem will not change. The problem is these are terrorists driven by hate and perhaps even a speculation, a religious ardor that says they can save their souls by doing this. You cannot protect yourself perfectly against them. And so we must ascertain what the cause is. What is it that's driving them to do it? And can the cause be dealt with? Probably this will be a greater challenge to our intelligence and our ability to be diplomatic and intelligent about negotiation than it is a challenge to our strength as a military power.
The FAA is telling us that the planes that are already in the air will continue to their destinations, but all other planes in airspace above the United States have been grounded. Governor Cuomo, I understand that your successor, George Pataki, is in New York City right now. There are a number of state offices, aren't there, Governor, in the Twin Towers?
My office, and I think the governor moved his office out of the World Trade Center, Governor Pataki, but my office was there, and I think there are still some other offices there, but not as many as there were when I was governor.
Air Force One is now leaving Sarasota, Florida, on its way back to Washington, D.C., but Let me just read directly the bulletin from Associated Press. The White House was evacuated today after the Secret Service received credible threat of a terrorist act against the presidential mansion and residence. It has been evacuated. The Pentagon struck, apparently according to one eyewitness, a reporter, by a plane. A large plane is now burning. It has been evacuated. 2 planes deliberately struck, it appears, the World Trade Center, which still burns at this hour. New York City has essentially been shut down. The Lincoln Tunnel is closed. All New York airports are closed. And now, of course, all plane flight in the United States has been stopped. Those in the air will continue to their destinations.
We continue on the phone with former New York Governor Mario Cuomo, who was governor at the time of the previous attack on the World Trade Center, the bombing back in 1993. If you can hold on for just 1 second, we want to listen in, Governor, to Jim Miklashevsky, who is reporting from the area of the Pentagon. The Pentagon, again, has been evacuated.
The second floor buckled upward, and then the third floor above him actually collapsed downward. The scene on the other side of the building, as it's being described to us, there are people being removed on stretchers. Security forces are evacuating the building right now. And according to the officials here at the Pentagon, they still don't know exactly what it was, but as you reported, Katie, eyewitnesses reported that, in fact, it was a plane that crashed into the Pentagon.
And, Mick, any idea, I wasn't quite sure if you said this, about the number of people who might have been hurt or worse in this?
No idea at all, Katie. As you know, having worked here on any given day, this is a small city, 25 to 30,000 people may be working here at any one time. That portion of the Pentagon, by the way, had just been remodeled and just reopened. If the crash had occurred just a few months ago, that section of the Pentagon would have been virtually empty. But at this time of day, early morning or mid-morning, the Pentagon's very busy. It's impossible to say how many casualties there may be. But there have been a large number of people cited being removed on stretchers. And again, as one survivor said, the floor just buckled up under him and the roof caved in on him.
All right, Mick, thank you very much. We want to move a couple of miles away from you right now to the White House, where Bob Kerr is standing by. And Bob, we understand that building has now been evacuated.
Let me just read, while we're listening to Jim Miklashevsky, another eyewitness, Paul Begala, Democratic consultant, was near the Pentagon, and he said this, is to quote, it was a huge fireball, a huge orange fireball at the Pentagon. Another witness told him a helicopter has exploded, but the best information we're getting is from an Associated reporter who said, quote, I saw the tail of a large airliner. It plowed right into the Pentagon. There is billowing black smoke. And, of course, there you see it on the television screen. Meantime, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center continue to burn at this hour. Ambulances dispatched to the scene, firefighters, people are being treated in nearby hospitals. Let's look again at the videotape. As we were watching the first tower burn, here is the second plane, and there is the explosion into the second tower of the World Trade Center. A horrible scene of devastation and fire. Eyewitnesses on the ground, and it was rush hour, describing pandemonium, panic, people unwilling to go out into the streets because so much debris and fire showering down on the streets below.
Governor Mario Cuomo, do you remain on the phone with us? We no longer have Governor Mario Cuomo on the phone, but we do have Ashley Banfield, of course, here at MSNBC and anchor here. Ashley, are you still in Manhattan?
I'm in Manhattan, Chris, and I'm just walking southward towards the World Trade Center. It's just an incredible sight. The streets of Manhattan are chock full of people who are stopped exactly where they were in the middle of their commute, standing, gaping, and looking at this sight. It is unbelievable. Emergency vehicles all throughout Manhattan, not only Midtown, but down near Chelsea now, where I am, have been streaming by us at every couple of seconds and intervals. Ambulances are heading by me now. A lot of the vehicles vehicles are also unmarked, looking like FBI vehicles heading towards the World Trade Center as well. Not only that, but we stopped by one of the hospitals, St. Vincent, which has been cordoned off. I can only guess possibly waiting for victims to be brought northward up 7th Avenue. The traffic has also all been stopped heading south down 7th Avenue. I haven't had a chance to see any of the other north-south thoroughfares, but I'm assuming that they are also tracked. We were down in the subway trying to at least take the subway to get downtown to the Wall Street area and World Trade Center area, and the subway announcer came over the loudspeaker saying, due to a police investigation, that subway traffic will be stopped between a certain area, so most of the people in the subway weren't able to get downtown either. It's really quite bizarre. Passing through Times Square, hundreds of people are gathered, staring up at the television screens in Times Square and listening to what's going on and listening to the coverage, watching the pictures. A woman walked by me just a few
Ashley,
seconds
can
ago
you hold
crying.
on 1 second? We'll let you catch your breath. We want to go to Walter Perez of WNBC.
First, Marna Ringel. And Marna, you work across the street. Tell me exactly what you saw on the street, and as you looked up, what you saw, because you said you saw the second one. Am I correct?
No, I didn't see the second one. I actually was coming out of the building, and there was maybe about 30 or 40 people at the bottom of One World Financial covered in blood. I did not expect that at all, and I work for Lehman in One right here, and a gentleman that I work with was on the telephone. He said, "What was that?" I said, he thought it was thunder. I looked over, screamed, "It's a bomb," because I saw a piece of the building flow down, and I think I scared my entire floor because I can scream pretty loud, and it was pretty bad.
Now, you mentioned that you saw people on the road outside of the building. Explain that scene.
I saw there's maybe about 30 or 40 people covered with bandages and blood. It looks like a lot of them were either on the floor of one of the exchanges. There's actually, oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
We're not sure exactly what happened, but it was another explosion on the far side of one of the buildings from where we're standing. The reverberation and another explosion on the right-hand side. Another building has gone up on the right-hand side of the road. People are now running down the street. We're not sure if that was another explosion or if that was advanced debris. Joining me also is Jim Plant. Jim, you're also a witness of what happened. Tell me exactly what you saw from your vantage point across the street.
I was just across Liberty and West here, and I saw the second plane hit the Tower 2. Looked like a 737. It hit a glancing blow. It didn't hit direct. I don't know where the rest of the plane went, but it went in, fireball came out, and it hit lower than the first plane, which hit the upper floors.
Jim, thank you very much. At this point, as you can tell,
it does appear that there has been a third explosion in the area of the World Trade Center. There was first one plane that hit one of the Twin Towers, a second plane, each about 1 hour ago, and now a third explosion. Ashley Banfield is in Manhattan. Ashley, did you see or hear anything just moments ago?
Oh my God, Chris, this is incredible. I'm looking right at it.
What are you seeing, Ashley?
Well, I saw the explosion for one.
Could you feel it?
Everybody, I can smell it. Everyone around screamed at the time that it happened. It's just unbelievable. I can't see that it's another building. It looks almost in the same position as the second bomb or the second explosion. But it's unbelievable.
What's the scene around you? What are people doing?
Most people, as I said earlier, are absolutely aghast.
Are they running?
No one's running. No, I'm not close enough at this point to be seeing that. I wouldn't be showered with debris from my position here. I'm too far north of it, but I have a bird's eye view of what's happening. And this is what the route that I'm on is the emergency route right now. So all of the emergency vehicles are streaming past us. But as I was looking up, I saw the entire explosion. It looked exactly like the first two. Unbelievable. And everyone who watched it around me screamed. It was just a chorus of "Oh my God" from everyone standing around. I'm walking, so what I'm hearing are a lot of people whose cars are parked, who've got their radios tuned to the local news stations and trying to catch up on just exactly what's happening. But now I'm seeing people running. But I don't think it has any, no, I really don't think that they're running from the area. We're too far away to be in the direct line of any debris. But we certainly had the most perfect vantage point for that explosion. It was unbelievable. And the smoke now is so thick. It's just incredible.
And we can see from our picture here, Ashley, and our picture, well, we've gotten it back, but there is a huge cloud of smoke virtually enveloping the downtown area of Manhattan. That is the Wall Street area. It is in the Battery Park City, lower Manhattan. A series now of 3 explosions, 2 planes. First, one flew into one tower of the Twin Towers, then a second some minutes later, and just moments ago, a 3rd explosion in the area of the World Trade Center. In addition, let's bring you up to date, there was an explosion at one of the Twin Towers has collapsed. That was the explosion. It apparently was not a 3rd independent explosion. It was not a bomb. It was not a plane. But there has been a collapse of one of the towers of the World Trade Center. You are talking about a 110-story building. On any given day, as many as 100,000 people can be there in their offices or visiting the World Trade Center. It is one of the most visible sites on the skyline of New York City. It is a main center of commerce, and there has apparently been a collapse of one of the 2 towers of the World Trade Center.
This may be one of the worst tragedies ever to strike this country. One of the World Trade Centers, having been struck by a plane in an apparent terrorist attack, has now collapsed. You are talking about a 1,377-foot skyscraper, 110 stories high. And judging by the debris and smoke that you are seeing there, it is now abundantly clear that the reports we are getting may well be true, that one of the Twin Towers has collapsed. The other one continues to burn. The Pentagon also struck, apparently by a terrorist attack, another airplane that hit it.
There's a series of evacuations we should report about. The White House has been evacuated. The Capitol building has been evacuated. The Pentagon has been evacuated. And the Sears, that is a look at the Pentagon right now, and you can see the efforts to put out the flames that were caused when a plane flew into the Pentagon, one of the largest, or did Mick say it was the largest office building in the United States? Miles and miles of corridors. In addition, obviously, so is, for that matter, the World Trade Center, and now the Sears Tower in Chicago being evacuated as well. You heard from one of our experts that we had on the phone a little earlier that if it was a single attack, then you could point to any of a number of terrorist organizations with the facilities, with the wherewithal to pull this off. And President Bush said earlier, it does appear that America has been the focus of apparent terrorist attacks. However, when you're talking about a series of coordinated attacks in New York and in Washington, D.C., there may be only 1 or 2 terrorist organizations with the kind of money and the organization and the aggressiveness to do something like this. And certainly one of the first places that the FBI will be looking at is Osama bin Laden.
Chris, we now know which of the Twin Towers has apparently collapsed. It is the second one. A portion of the second tower that was hit by a terrorist hijacked airplane has collapsed onto the street below. A huge plume of smoke is obscuring the Twin Towers, which is why we couldn't tell which one of the buildings, but it is the, if you recall the videotape, and perhaps we can play it again, of the second plane crashing into the second tower, which we watched live on television. It is that tower, apparently, according to the best information we are now getting, that has crashed and collapsed onto the streets below. It is 110 stories high, 1,377. We are now going to play the collapse of that building.
And there you see the second, number 2 World Trade Center collapsing into the ground. This follows a series of attacks on both towers of the Twin Towers complex. One plane first into one tower. A short time later, a second plane, apparently both hijacked, flying deliberately into the second tower. And then sometime later, this is the view from across the river. This is New Jersey. And across the Hudson River, you can see that the entire World Trade Center area, the Wall Street area, center of commerce for the United States and the world, is enveloped in clouds of smoke. We heard from our Ashley Banfield that police have been clearing the streets. There have been emergency vehicles rushing to the scene. We have no reports at this point of how extensive the deaths or injuries may be, but our Rick Sanchez is on the scene in Manhattan. Rick, tell us exactly where you are and what you're able to see.
We are now right off of Canal, approximately 2 blocks from there, 3 blocks from the scene as we look at it. And it certainly would be fair at this point, Chris, to say that there is a sense of panic among some of the people here in this community. People are running from the scene with tears in their eyes, some of them extremely distraught about what's going on. Moments ago, I had a chance to talk to a hardened mechanic who works in this area, who is himself choked up about what he has witnessed here from his storefront when I believe the second plane hit. Brian is with us here. Chris, I'm going to let you talk to him so you get a chance to get a feel for what the people in this area actually saw as the plane hit the building.
Okay,
Brian,
thanks very much. Hi, it's Chris Jansen. Brian, tell us what you saw.
Actually, I heard the first explosion, turned around and looked, and I saw the back of the building blown right out. Apparently, the first plane had hit the south side, blew out the north side. I was watching it, and then I saw the second plane come across the river, about 200 feet off the ground, and smash into the second building. It was devastating. It really was.
And what was the reaction of people who were around you, Brian?
Well, at that point, people were being evacuated all over the place. People are still passing by my shop. There's some people crying. There's some people just walking fast, desperately trying to make phone calls. I've left my phone in my office here to probably 100 people so far so they can make calls. The cellulars aren't getting through very easily. And it's just horrible. There's nothing but, chaos going on. The second building got hit about halfway up the side of the building, and it just collapsed about 5 minutes ago. So from about, I don't know how many floors up, it collapsed across the street, across West Street.
Were you able to feel the
I
shock?
saw the collapse. I saw the smoke. And God knows how many firemen just got killed down there.
Tell me about the emergency efforts, because on any given day at 9 o'clock in the morning when these attacks first happened, 9 o'clock Eastern time, the streets of lower Manhattan, which is the Wall Street area, would be teeming. They would be
well, they actually got it under
traffic.
Control and cleared up pretty
They were
quickly.
able to clear things out pretty easily. Emergency vehicles have been able to get through.
Oh, yeah. They've been coming down and down and down, yeah.
And what are people doing now where you are?
There's still people passing my shop, walking uptown. All the buildings around the World Trade Center have been evacuated, and all these people are just walking past my shop. Some kids are crying, the school's being evacuated, and everything.
Tell us a little bit about that area directly where you are, Brian.
What do you need to know? I'm 1 block south of Canal Street on West Street. That's between Watts and Desbrosses.
And this is near the
up.
Chinatown area of New York City.
No, we're on the west side. The Chinatown's more east.
Okay, you're on the west side.
Right.
And this is a largely commercial area, residential?
Well, it's commercial. Yeah, there is some residential going down the Tribeca area, but down where the explosion happened, it's commercial. Could you hold 1 second? I have to take a call.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Brian, who was a witness.
Chris, Rick.
To update what is...
Stay with us, Rick, if you will.
Okay.
What appears to be the most deadly and devastating terrorist attack ever against this nation has just occurred in the last hour and a half. 2 planes struck the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. The address of the trade center that has collapsed is 1 World Trade Center. There is the plane that struck it, and then about 35 to 40 minutes later, and we're going to try to play that for you in just a moment, and here it is. 1 World Trade Center collapses. You can see it off to the left there of the tower to the right that was struck first. The Pentagon also struck by a plane, a terrorist attack. It has been evacuated. The White House has been evacuated after the Secret Service received a credible threat of a terrorist attack against the presidential mansion and the residence. The President of the United States alerted to what happened immediately, got on a plane, and is on his way back aboard Air Force One to Washington, D.C. And the Pentagon has been evacuated. All flights in the United States have been stopped. Those planes that are in the air are to go to their destinations. No planes are allowed to take off, and to New York City is essentially shut down.
We want to go back over to Lester Holt, who has been following the aviation aspects of this for us. Lester, what can you tell us?
First of all, I am just getting word from NBC's Joe Johns on Capitol Hill reporting, and I'm going to emphasize the word possible, a possible explosion on one side of the Capitol. Tell me again the side he's reporting, Chris? Tell me what side of the Capitol is he saying? Joe Johns reporting a possible explosion on the west side of the Capitol, unconfirmed. While we try to confirm that, we have confirmed one of the airplanes involved in the Trade Center explosions. American Airlines confirming. Okay, we're also hearing there are military jets now patrolling the D.C. area, presumably interceptors. American Airlines is confirming that its Flight 11 from Boston Logan to Los Angeles was involved in one of the World Trade Center explosions. That flight was scheduled to leave Boston at 7:45 a.m., would have arrived in Los Angeles at 11 o'clock local time in L.A. Flight 11 is scheduled to be a Boeing 767. That is a twin-aisled, wide-body airplane capable of holding as many as 250 people. Again, American Airlines confirming that one of its planes from Logan to LAX, Flight 11, was involved in one of the explosions we saw at the World Trade Center. We don't know if it's the one we have on video, the one where you actually see the plane flying into the World Trade Center, but that's our first confirmation of a particular flight. Also, there was word U.S. officials with access to intelligence say it appears it was a third plane that hit the Pentagon. Now, I'm not clear if they're talking about the two at the World Trade Center than a third, but in fact, they are now saying it was an airplane that struck the Pentagon, as you see in this picture here. We're still waiting. Any word from Joe Johns? Okay, we're still waiting for more confirmation from Joe Johns about a report of an explosion on the west side of the U.S. Capitol. Now, the fact that they have shut down airports worldwide, if you are a fan of techno-thrillers, you have read this story, no doubt, many times before, but this is reality. This is not a techno-thriller. This is America apparently under attack as we look at this live picture of smoke billowing out of what is left, what was the Twin Towers of lower Manhattan, New York City. At the same time, the Pentagon being evacuated. We can punch up a live picture. You can see people near the bottom of your screen there above the breaking news banner. You can see people continuing to billow out of that area, people leaving the area of the apparent attack. NBC's Rick Sanchez is in lower Manhattan covering the Trade Center attacks. Rick, what do you have?
Well, the very latest, Lester, is a scene that's being described by some of the police officers who are scurrying about trying to get some sense of control in this area. They are saying that people have now started to jump out of the buildings, some of them in the areas, of course, where there is heavy smoke and fire, that they have had no way of getting to them, and that they have witnessed people jumping from the buildings, a story that's also been told to us by some of the people in this area just off of Canal Street. We're about 4 or 5 blocks away from the scene, and what you have is a steady flow of people, some of them running, some of them jogging, others walking briskly away from the World Trade Center, many of them with tears in their eyes, many telling stories, and some just downright distraught and screaming as they just try and get as far away from the scene as they possibly can. The closer you get to the scene, the more you see what can only be described as carnage by many of those even hardened investigators, hardened police officers that we have had a chance to talk to. Moments ago, we got off the only way most access, by the way, has been shut down to this area. All the subways and all the other transit has been shut down to this area. We came in by by essentially asking someone to drive us into this area, and we've just gotten off moments ago. We're off of Canal Street as we start to talk to some of the people in this area who, Lester, can only be described as being in shock right now.
Rick, we know it's very difficult for folks to get calls into and out of Manhattan. I was able to fortunately speak to my wife, who was dropping the kids not too far from the World Trade Center for school. They are okay, but we can imagine folks watching these pictures that we've been seeing, wondering about their loved ones and having great difficulty getting phone calls in and out.
All I can tell you right now, as far as that is concerned, Lester, I talked to one police officer, and they say what they're going to try and do is just evacuate the area, get people out of this area as soon as they possibly can. Their next step is to somehow try and cordon off or close the roads, but they really haven't had a chance to do that because they're dealing with the buildings themselves at this point. I am told that most of the schools and most of the buildings in this area, even within like a 10-block radius, have also been closed, and people are being told essentially to try and get out of the area as carefully as they possibly can. I heard noises out there now. What sounded like a megaphone. I'm not confirming that that's what I hear, but it sounds like police might be using some type of audio device to try and.
Rick, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I want to let our viewers know that you are watching live NBC News coverage of a series of attacks that have targeted Washington, D.C. and New York City, the Trade Center. This is in New York. This is taped just turned around from ground level of the Pentagon, where apparently another plane has been driven into part of the Pentagon. We have no casualty figures right now, but you can see the steady stream of people leaving the Pentagon, evacuating. As you may well know, the Pentagon is a series of rings inside rings inside rings, a huge building, and an enormous number of people to evacuate. This attack occurring after 9 o'clock East Coast time, so folks were clearly at their desk, at work at the Pentagon when this occurred. Back to the situation in New York right now. We have on the telephone with us Will Femia. He is with MSNBC.com, our web partner. Will, can you tell me what you have seen and describe what's going on now? Will Femia, you with us?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, great. I started watching at the second explosion. Let's see. I'm about a few blocks south of the ticker tape parade quantities of debris, like just the sky filled with little pieces of bits, and it was coming down. And when that happened, the people on the street just turned and were like running, screaming. Then slowly the people started to come back. Rick was right about the police using audio. I just heard them go down my street as well. I couldn't quite make out what they were saying, probably telling us to leave.
Will, have you seen any signs of casualties? And I want to let folks know we're looking at a live picture now. This is along the west side highway, the west side of the trade towers there. In fact, Pat Dawson is doing a live report on the network side. Let's listen into Pat now.
And they could barely breathe as they came back. The smoke and the dust, as you can imagine, from such a collapse was extraordinary. Basically, at this point, what we can report to you is probably what you have heard, and that is that the two World Trade Centers, each of these two towers here in New York City, have been struck by aircraft. It is, according to the President of the United States, an apparent act of terrorism. Right down here, we cannot tell you much more in terms of specific information other than to say that there are probably at this stage, I would say, hundreds, perhaps in the thousands of emergency workers who in the last hour and a half have managed to work their way down here to lower Manhattan and basically try to get into this fray. We are standing right here about 10 to 12 blocks north of the World Trade Center. These firemen that you can see, firefighters are walking down towards the site now, and they literally have been arriving by the dozens over the past hour or so. As we say, probably in excess of 1,000 or more emergency workers from New York City and surrounding areas converging on this site now to try to make some sense of it. As you can imagine, at this point, there is a certain level of chaos because they're just trying to sort out who's alive, who's not. We did speak to, as I said before, some of the emergency workers. They are police officers from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. That is the organization that has jurisdiction over those two buildings specifically, as well as bridges and tunnels. I spoke to two of them who were actually down there when that building collapsed. They said that they speculate that the loss of life had to be horrific, that there were not that many people down there on the streets at that point, that most of them who had been evacuated, that is civilians. But on the other hand, they said that there were literally hundreds of emergency workers who were down at that end. They have no idea the level of loss of life at this point. When I asked one of them why he was going back in as he suited up since he could barely breathe, he said, "It's my job, and there may be some of my brother officers in there. There may be other people in there." So those officers going in here, as you can see, all kinds of fire workers going in there, literally in the thousands now converging on this site. we cannot give you much of an organizational sense beyond telling you probably what you already know, which is that 2 separate aircraft have struck the 2 towers of the World Trade Center. If memory serves, I think each of those towers stands 110 stories. Some of the dust, as you can probably see now, is blowing in our faces. It just really depends on which way the wind blows as to whether or not we're enveloped in some of the dust and the smoke. As you can see from these pictures, the amount of dust from the fire that's still burning, flames and ash, is extraordinary at this point. And at least a few emergency workers have said that they really aren't so sure that other tower won't stay up now. They really didn't think the first one was capable of coming down, but it did. And so they're basically saying, keep back as far as you can. On the other hand, facing that danger, as we have been telling you, many hundreds of these workers are heading over those lines down towards that burning building to try to rescue those people who are in there, be they emergency workers, be they civilians. The original crash took place just about 8:45 by my reckoning. I don't know the exact time, but about 8:45. And when that took place, obviously at that hour, the building would not be packed with people, but it's still late enough in the morning that there would be enough people on those floors that the loss of life and certainly the injuries would likely be extraordinary. What you are looking at now is a close-up of the enormous hole in the side of that building. That is exactly what happens when a plane hits the side of the World Trade Center. The only time that we really have any kind of comparative experience as to how to do this, rather how to compare it to, I suppose, is in 1945, a B-25, an Army B-25, just at the end of World War II, crashed into the Empire State Building, and that caused, obviously, a great deal of damage, but it happened at night, so the loss of life was not that bad.
That's Pat Dawson reporting from outside the World Trade Center. You see the live picture, smoke continuing to billow from the upper floors. We have just received word that all inbound international flights to the United States are being diverted to Canada. The government will not allow them to land here in the U.S. They are being diverted to Canada. As we've been reporting, all airports in the U.S. have shut down departures. We were watching on our Flight Explorer. I don't know if we can put it on the air right now. This is a system in which we can actually look at the number of airplanes in the air. Normally, this would be dotted with little blue airplane figures. Look at how few we're looking. It looks like only 3 over the immediate New York City metropolitan area. Just a handful. Airplanes in the air are being allowed to land at their destinations, and then that is it. Now, keep in mind, the planes you're looking at here are only those that are participating in the FAA radar system, airliners. This does not include anybody in a small Cessna or a small plane who might be flying what's called VFR traffic, where they're just flying below the commercial traffic. But again, these represent commercial airplanes or airplanes that are participating in the FAA system, just a handful in the skies over the Northeast right now. Greg, Chris?
Watching continuing NBC News coverage on MSNBC of a series of apparent terrorist attacks on the United States. First, 2 planes crashing into the upper floors of both World Trade Center towers in Lower Manhattan just minutes apart this morning. And again, what President Bush said was an apparent terrorist attack. Sometime later, Twin Tower number 1, World Trade Center number 1, as it is known, collapsed. Within the hour, an aircraft crashed into a helicopter landing pad near the Pentagon, and the West Wing of the White House was evacuated, among other places. The Pentagon has been evacuated, the White House, the Capitol, the Sears Tower in Chicago, and you see the billowing smoke that continues to come out of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. Joining us on the phone, Dr. Angelo Caprio. He is at St. Mary's Hospital in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is across the river from Manhattan. And a doctor, as I understand it, well, let's go to WNBC coverage first.
State Department officials and the White House officials and the NSC have all been evacuated as well, although Condi Rice was earlier in the Situation Room, and CIA Director George Tenet has been holding meetings in his office in Langley, Virginia. And as we reported earlier, key FBI team members from their rescue efforts and anti-terror coordinating team were stranded in Monterey, California, where they were on a secret exercise, military exercise,
right,
against exactly this kind of event.
Andrew, let me interrupt for a second. Can you tell us any more about reports we're getting that a car bomb has exploded?
And so you heard NBC's Andrea Mitchell expanding the number of evacuations in Washington, D.C., the NSC and the State Department as well. As I told you, we have Dr. Angelo Caprio on the phone from St. Mary's Hospital in Hoboken, New Jersey. Doctor, I know it's extremely busy. What can you tell us about any casualties you're receiving there?
We're receiving some minor burns now. We have 3 emergency rooms in our hospital system, one here at St. Mary's, one at St. Francis, and one at Christ Hospital in Jersey City, and we're open and functioning to receive any casualties that we may get.
You are directly across the river from Midtown Manhattan. Have you ever in your experience gotten any of these types of casualties from New York? What kind of emergency plan is in place that would include New Jersey hospitals?
I don't know what kind of emergency plan they have in place. We have our external disaster plan in place. We sent triage teams to the PATH station, Hoboken Terminal. And as I said, we have our 3 emergency rooms open and running.
Dr. Angelo Caprio, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
From around the New York City metropolitan region, help is pouring in after the attack on the Twin Towers.
And we believe now the second tower of the World Trade Center, that would be tower number 2, has collapsed. This is a terrible, terrible tragedy. The first one collapsed just a short time ago. This now appears to be the second of the Twin Towers, having been struck, each of them, by a plane, has collapsed. Let's listen.
From the area. There are firefighters and there are police trying to evacuate the area as quickly as possible. People who are near the area are in an absolute frenzied situation. The entire top of the building just collapsed. You can see the plume of smoke is coming in our direction. Let's get out of here, Ralph. We're going to leave because the smoke is coming right at us.
Obviously, this is a devastating moment.
Look at that. The World Trade Center is no more.
We do not know at this point.
What has happened in Lower Manhattan, almost unfathomable. An apparent terrorist attack. 2 planes deliberately crashed, we believe, into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. Now, these are pictures from just moments ago. Earlier, one World Trade Center collapsed. Now you can see the collapse of the second tower. It is almost incomprehensible to believe that these 2 110-story towers, there you see it, just collapsing into the ground, are no longer part of the skyline of Manhattan. And there were huge numbers of emergency workers who were rushing to the scene to deal with the injured in that area from the first 2 initial explosions and then, of course, the collapse of the first of the World Trade Center towers. Now with the second collapse, here again is the tape just moments ago, the collapse of the World Trade Center tower number 2.
These are 110 stories high, roughly 1,377-foot skyscrapers, 2 of the defining characteristics of the Manhattan skyline. They are no more, and one can scarcely comprehend the loss of life of all of the people who perhaps were not lucky enough to scramble out of these buildings when they were first attacked by hijacked planes shortly before 9 o'clock this morning in an apparent terrorist attack against America. And there you see the second tower coming down. The Twin Towers are gone now. And too, we should tell you, there is the Pentagon. The Pentagon was also struck by what we believe to be a hijacked plane. It has been evacuated. The White House has been evacuated. The nation's Capitol building has been evacuated. Congressional leaders have reportedly been taken to a secure location. Here again is the number 2 tower of the World Trade Center come crashing down to the ground in a horrific scene of destruction wrought by a terrorist attack on America. Before that tower collapsed, an eyewitness said it had become so desperate that he saw people literally jumping out the windows of that tower to their death. When the initial plane attack occurred, another eyewitness said bodies were falling to the ground from the upper levels of this 110-story structure.
The scene that you are viewing is from the opposite side of the Hudson River. The Twin Towers sit on the lower end of Manhattan, virtually in the southernmost tip of Manhattan, not far off from where people are familiar with the Statue of Liberty. This is a highly populated area during the daytime. It is the Wall Street area of Manhattan, and this is the view from across the river in New Jersey. President George W. Bush called this a national tragedy. He said he had spoken to the director of the FBI and ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help victims and their families and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and try to find those folks who committed this act. He further said terrorism against our nation will not stand. Experts will tell you that there are very few terrorist organizations that could pull off a series of coordinated attacks against the United States, chief among them the terrorist network of Osama bin Laden.
There had been an alert last Friday warning the Pentagon and the State Department of an imminent terrorist attack, in particular Osama bin Laden, the well-known terrorist who has struck so many times before, who has been indicted for the killings of some 200 people. And as we watch the World Trade Center yet again, the second tower, come tumbling down in a scene of unbelievable destruction, one can only imagine the number of people who just now, as we're watching it moments ago, lost their lives.
You're watching continuing NBC News coverage on MSNBC. We are hearing from the Federal Aviation Administration, which has shut down air traffic over the skies of the United States, that reports that there was a hijacked plane heading to Washington, D.C. are unfounded. The FAA, after these initial two attacks, the two planes that hit the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, shut down air traffic over the United States, although they did allow planes that were currently en route to land. John Zito is an MSNBC producer. He lives in Lower Manhattan. He's on the phone with us now. John, where are you and what can you see?
I can't see much. I can't see more of about 3 feet in front of my face. All the debris and soot from the second tower is just showering down. There's paper and just black soot. I'm outside a bank, and a bunch of people are inside in the lobby taking cover.
Where exactly are you in relation to where the Twin Towers stood, John?
I'm about, I'd say, 15 to 20 blocks away. I'm at the Bowling Green subway station. I know that doesn't mean much to people who aren't from New York, but it's in the downtown area. A very popular place where a lot of commuters come in and out.
Now, obviously, listen, the most important thing is that you stay safe, John, and that you get to an area where you feel that you may be most secure. Were you able to feel the collapse of that second tower?
The second tower, no, but the first tower that went down, I was very close, I'd say about 5 blocks away. And CNBC's Ron and Anna and I were trying to hook up with the truck or find any NBC contact down there. And we were very close when that tower came down. And the debris came showering down, and Ron and I both ran for cover. I managed to get inside an alcove of building, and all the scaffolding around collapsed in front of me and broke the window next to me. And I climbed inside that and stayed in there for about 10 minutes. I couldn't get out of there. It was pitch black outside. And I haven't, hold on. I'm all right.
You're okay, John?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Actually, I'm being ushered out of here right now. They're sending me inside the building.
And who is doing that? Are police on the scene?
Hello?
John, are police on the scene? Who is moving you?
It was a New York City police officer, and he's just sort of gone on his way and left me now. But I'm the only one on the street at the moment.
You're the only one on the street. Well, John, obviously, get to a safe place, but tell us, is the smoke starting to clear? Are you able to see anything more at this point? And literally the streets are deserted?
I'm standing across the street, and I'm staring at a walk, don't walk blinking sign. And so the street couldn't be more than, 10 yards across. I can barely make out the blinking don't walk stuff.
John, hold on right there. Thank you.
Let's go to NBC's Pat Dawson, who is downtown. Let's listen.
We're trying to run past us. In fact, our cameraman even put one of the captains in his car and drove him down to a command post. The people who you see here are pretty much all emergency workers. Many of them that I have seen in the last 2 to 3 minutes, quite frankly, are coming out of here. And remember this, these are professionals. They're coming out of there looking literally stunned, in shock, many of them, struggling for breath, obviously in serious distress. Breathing problems are the biggest problem for those who manage to make it safely out of that area down below us. You can't see much more than a block south of me right now. And the World Trade Center probably stands about 10 blocks south of where I am at this moment. And as you can see now, the dust is beginning to pick up here. It really depends on which way the wind blows as to whether or not we get heavy dust or not. But at this point, I can tell you that in the first few minutes, emergency workers were trying just basically to get out of there, to survive. You could see that written in their faces. The situation was so desperate, they just wanted to get out of there. Now, many of them are beginning to regroup. A couple of them asked me where their commander might be. They're trying to get together and go back in there and try to take care of the people who obviously are in serious trouble. There's no other way to describe it. The language here, at times, if I slip into language which seems a little melodramatic, forgive me, but this is a circumstance which is very, very difficult to describe in many ways without sounding melodramatic. Certainly in more than 20 years of covering horrific events, this is something that I've never seen before. As we say, the emergency workers now beginning to try to gather themselves. Over there you can see a police emergency service unit. They're trying basically now to reestablish some kind of a safe perimeter. And many of the emergency workers basically just happy to be alive. Certainly that picture tells it all. Many of them just happy to be alive at this point, having survived what is an extraordinary event, the collapse of 2 towers. As we said earlier in our report, 110 stories each. I will tell you that what I saw fall had to be at least 40, 50 stories of that building at first. The skeleton was left at about, I would say, the 50 or 60th floor after the shell, after the structure of the building fell down. The skeleton, the steel skeleton, was literally sheaved off, and it took probably about another 30 seconds before the skeleton collapsed into the street. That was the last.
Let's break away from Pat Dawson, if we can, for a moment. Lester Holt here at MSNBC World Headquarters. From the Associated Press, Dateline Pittsburgh, large plane crashes in western Pennsylvania's. They're citing officials at the Somerset County Airport who confirm it. Again, AP reporting and citing the Somerset County Airport. A large plane crashes in western Pennsylvania. That is all we have. This comes quite a time after the FAA put essentially a ground stop. All airplanes in the air were allowed to continue to their destinations, but every commercial airport in the country right now is closed. But again, the news just gets worse and worse. A large plane crashing in western Pennsylvania. NBC's Ashley Banfield is in Lower Manhattan, the scene of the chaos that you're watching unfold live. Ashley, what have you learned? What can you see?
I don't know how to describe this. I don't know what to tell you first. But when that building came down, we were a couple of blocks.
You all right?
And I'm fine, thank you. Are you okay?
The glasses come a little too by you.
An incredible cloud of debris and smoke completely engulfed us. We couldn't breathe. We broke down the door to a building just to get out from the cloud. We couldn't breathe. Thank you. No, we couldn't breathe. We couldn't see. It was pitch black. Just going into a corner restaurant, just allowing us. And it was as though I swear I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like this. This whole place looks like a war zone. There's debris everywhere. It's hard to breathe. And when that cloud came at us, I could feel it, the force of it. And it was as though, an instinct took over. We just had to breathe. And
Ashley, we're gonna let you collect yourself.
Right.
Obviously, the priority to anyone who was watching in the New York City area, stay safe. Ashley, get to safety. We will talk to you in a bit. We want to get to Pat Dawson again, who is on the west side of the Trade Center, who was covering the scene from there.
At least a dozen emergency workers this morning, police and fire. The loss of life, in the words of one, has to be terrible. There's just simply no way around it. And that, obviously, if we start just with the people who are on those two planes. The other thing which we have seen this morning, which we rarely if ever see here on the island of Manhattan, that is we have been circled several times by Air Force jets. We assume they are Air Force, going overhead at, I would say, probably about 10 to 12,000 feet.